Greetings all you metamaniacs, this is Team G, and Good Maurice and I are here to break down C3PO's very complicated kit and set you firmly on the road to theory crafting with what is certainly one of the most powerful and versatile characters in all of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. After months of speculation, C3PO has arrived, and as much of the community anticipated, we will need the Ewoks to obtain him. Fear not, as your investment in the faction actually benefits from his presence, unlike the bounty hunters in Chewy or First Order and BB8. We will dive right in and discuss a few key points to remember when theory crafting your future teams. First, C3PO operates like an offensively focused Hermit Yoda. He does not do damage directly, and he retreats as the last surviving ally within a battle, allowing him to be reused multiple times in certain game modes. C3PO has a basic, a special, and 5 uniques. The first unique is related to the new buff translation, which can be applied to Galactic Republic, Rebel, Resistance, and Ewok allies. The second unique is specific to C3PO's life partner, R2-D2. The third, fourth, and fifth have one element that isn't faction-specific and applies to any and all allies, dark and light side, and then a second component that applies to either Galactic Republic, Rebel, and Resistance allies, respectively and independently within each of the uniques. All of these bonuses, however, apply to Ewoks, and they are doubled when they do. As far as Droid faction synergy goes, here's what C3PO brings to the Droid faction. Bear with me a minute here. Gotta be here somewhere. You know what? Sorry guys, you got yub nub nothing. Well, we're teasing a bit here. I'm sure you faction fanboys can dominate with this offensive juggernaut of a team. So powerful, you don't even need a leadership ability. C3PO, R2, K2SO, BB8, and Chopper.
Boom, baby!
Now, we jest, and indeed, you might find a team that he works with. CG has provided us all of the footage that you see in this video of C3PO. We have not had a chance to play with this toon, and as you can see here, they have paired him with droids.
What is Confuse? Instead of dealing damage on his basic ability, Baffling Trick, C3PO inflicts a debuff Confuse on enemies. It can stack up to 3 times, and with each instance refreshes the duration of all stacks back to 3 turns. This cannot be evaded. Each stack brings a new effect with it. The first stack of Confuse will grant a buff immunity type of effect to the enemy. The second stack of Confuse will grant the same buff immunity effect, plus an element that is similar to Daze. Targets cannot assist, targets cannot counter, and also targets cannot gain turn meter. The third stack will prevent buffs, prevent assists, prevent counters, prevent turn meter increase, and also will increase the cooldowns of the enemies when they use a basic ability. Much like Thrawn and Traya, Confuse will affect raid bosses differently. 2 stacks on a raid boss will prevent them from gaining buffs and also give them negative 30% counter chance. The third stack on a raid boss will prevent buffs, it will give them negative 30% counter chance, and then also negative 50% defense that unfortunately does not stack with defense down. Prior to all this madness, you reduce the target's turn meter by 6% and an additional 3% for each stack of translation on C3PO himself.
What's translation? Translation is the new buff C3PO brings with him, and before we explain, you need to envision a loose hybrid of Hermit Yoda's Master's Training and BB-8's Covert Data Transfer. The mechanic is present in his only special ability. Oh my goodness. C3PO throws his helpless hands in the air and grants himself stealth and potency up for 2 turns, grants 2 stacks of the before-mentioned Confuse to a target, then grants himself and a target ally the transition buff. Then, all allies with this transition buff are called to assist with a negative 50% damage penalty. Deep breathe, repeat, buffs himself, confuses enemy, gets the transition train rolling, calls an assist. What are the benefits of having translation, you ask? It's similar to the Confuse mechanic, but boosting your team's members instead of crippling the team's enemies. The description is included in the text of his first unique, Protocol Droid. 1 stack of translation equals 30% max health, 2 stacks add on 15% crit chance, 3 stacks add on 1 turn cooldown reduction of all abilities. Ewoks, Resistance, Galactic, and Rebels all gain the transition buff for 3 turns when they use a special ability, or are granted a stack from his Oh My Goodness ability. Identical to the Confused, the duration of the buff is refreshed to 3 turns when a new stack is applied. Once zated, throw in plus 20 speed for C3PO because, hey, why not? It's important to note, once C3PO dies, all the buffs die with him.
A growing trend within the game is having dual synergy characters within a faction synergy. Chewbacca is less effective without Han Solo, Mission very average without Zalbar. Our new friend here is no different and synergizes with R2-D2. C3PO's second unique, Wait For Me, is present for the sole purpose of enhancing these two characters. Once Zeta, it gives both droids a head start to buffing themselves by applying a stack of translation at the start of the battle. It will grant both 10% evasion per stack of translation. When there are no other allies, C3PO scampers away from danger. We've discussed the first 4 abilities of the new legendary character, but there are 7 in all with his 5 uniques. Trying to trim GP for Grand Arena purposes? Tis, not so fast. The last 3 uniques affect specific factions differently, and we will touch on them as we make a few team recommendations.
Galactic Republic is the first unique on the docket, and dial your clocks back to 2017. Redbone is on the radio, and your General Kenobi-led Barriss compilations are still viable. The weakness of that team was that it needed Darth Nihilus. It lacked damage. C3PO's third unique, Intermediary, grants 10% defensive penetration to all allies we mentioned in the keynotes at the beginning of the video. The second part of Intermediary grants 10% defensive penetration to Galactic Republic allies for each stack of translation. In addition, they gain a non-stacking 15% protection up buff when they gain a non-unique buff for the first time. Pretty specific, yes, but this should pair nicely under a Bastila lead, potentially reapplying her benefits from her lead. Bonus protection paired with the evolution of mods, and now a much deeper Jedi pool, the GK Barriss team of old could generate the damage needed to thrive in today's Grand Arena and TW settings. You can now comfortably field your Rex leads without neglecting your clone synergy, as C3PO might give you stubborn clone enthusiasts a leg to stand on.
Cyborg Relations is the 4th unique ability, and it applies 10% potency to all allies, then an additional 10% potency on Rebels for each stack of translation. If Rebels didn't generate enough damage already, they now inflict exposed with their basic attacks. Pair C3PO with Chewbacca, and you can shoot through any team with all the max health based damage generated. Many of the debuffs generated by the Rebels come as an attachment from their basic attacks. Wedge, defense down, Captain Han with the daze, Han Solo's turn meter reduction. The exposed plus increased chance of debuffs ensures this faction will continue to remain relevant for the foreseeable future.
The kit unfortunately has an end, and we've reached the 7th and final ability, Fretful Mediator. The passive stat this unique grants is 10% critical damage to all allies, then an additional 10% per translation stack for all resistance allies. With this bonus, you could potentially remove Scavenger Ray from a zFinn team without losing the damage, and you may even have a use for, Rose Tico? Resistance Trooper will be a superstar in your P1 Sith Raid teams, and expect scores to rise once the right compilation is found. Each of the previous 2 abilities grants a perk in addition to the stat boosts. This one is no different, granting each and every Resistance special ability a chance to deliver an unevadable offense down.
Now on to the Ewoks. You farm them to obtain them, and they reap the benefits of each and every unique C3PO brings to the table. Not only that, but these benefits are doubled. Let's break it down now. Your Ewoks will now get the following: a maximum of 70% defensive penetration, 70% potency, and 70% crit damage. They get the 15% protection up perk. They now expose on their basic attacks, and they now have the chance to apply offense down on their special attacks. Depending on the amount of translation stacks these characters have, they can gain a maximum of 30% health, 15% crit chance, and a chance for cooldown reduction whenever C3PO uses his basic ability, Baffling Trick. Imagine the modding possibilities, and we could be talking Ewoks as the must-have Grand Arena Territory Wars team in the future. We could also be seeing much higher scores in the P2 of the Sith Raid as well.
If you got this far, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope this information helped. You can always join us on Tuesday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our live stream.